Okay, so let's start now. So we have to start with the ways and means. Is that where we are?
We have to start from the ways and means.
Yeah. So any questions that you people have in the first two pages, 34, 35? I hope you people come prepared, having read, and you don't start opening the book after coming here. See, if you have come after having read, you already will have some queries, right? So anybody wants to ask anything between third and fourth, the 34, 35 page number? So in the 34th page number, the last line of the first paragraph. But for the realization of God, the absolute or the Parabrahman, we have to adapt means which lead us to complete negation. Then he gives you what is the goal of life in the next paragraph. Our goal of life, as discussed in the previous chapter, is the final stage where we are nearest to the superactive center or zero, which is the primary cause of the entire manifestation and to which everything will ultimately return after Mahapralaya. So that is the final goal. So that also you might be asked a question about. So in order to go back to the condition of zero, we have to make ourselves zero. We will reach that point in due course of time at the time of Mahapralaya. But what we are doing is we are trying to make it happen faster. That's all we are trying to do. And this entire process is to make that happen faster.
Brother, here one doubt I'm having. What's the major difference between Mahapralaya and individual Mahapralaya?
We don't call the individual Pralaya as Mahapralaya. In Mahapralaya and Pralaya is only different in terms of the manifest, the quality, the quantity, not the quality. The quality is very similar. That's of a larger nature, this is of a smaller nature, that's all. So individual pralaya is smaller in nature, Mahapralaya is very bigger in nature, magnitude is different, that's all. That is why it is called as Maha. Wherever we add the word in Sanskrit, wherever we add the word Maha, we are just denoting that there is a difference in magnitude, that's all. So there is something called as Brahmana, Mahabrahmana. Okay. So something more different of a different magnitude. That's what we mean. Okay. Very similarly, we also use the word para. So Shakti, para Shakti. Okay. Vairagya, para Vairagya. Bhakti, para Bhakti. There again, we indicate of a higher magnitude, of a subtler nature. That's what we are talking about. Now, if you compare between para and maha, we have two words now. Both indicate clear magnitude. But what about para versus the maha? Of the para versus maha, para is lower and maha is higher. That's how we differentiate it. Okay. So there are two things which indicates higher magnitude or of a higher order. Para
That means
and maha. Para is lower of the two, maha is higher of the two. That's all. Okay. So now we go to the 35 page number. So just as Mahapralaya is essential for the return of everything to its origin, we must also bring about our Pralaya or acquire a state of complete dissolution of all things of our own making. Now that is very, very important. Dissolution of the things of our own making. Here we need to remember what is our creation, what is versus what is divine creation. We cannot negate divine creation. We can negate our creation. Okay. Now the divine creation consists of the soul, the consciousness, and the entire creation, the manifest universe that you see, manifest and the unmanifest universe. This is divine creation. Our creation is samskaras, body, and mind. These are the three things we create. It means we have to be free from all the belongings and assume. Now the thing is, if we say that we have to destroy our creation, are we destroying the body and the mind?
No.
We don't destroy the body and the mind. But I just now said that we have to destroy our creation. Then what are we doing with the body and the mind? Anyway, something to ponder about. We don't destroy the body and the mind. We bring it into its original state of functioning. That's all. Its natural state of functioning. That's all that we do. And how do we do that? And as and when we become more natural in terms of the functioning of the body and the mind, we detach from the body and the mind. We no longer identify ourselves as just the body and the mind. This is the benefit. Okay. Anyway, it means that we have to free ourselves from all our belongings and assume the same naked form in which we were at the time of creation. What are our belongings? That can be a question. Our belongings are our property. Asti in Kannada translation, they have used the word asti. Here they have used the word belongings. You can say our property. Asti means property. Our property is a pile of samskaras.
Here is our baggage. Baggage of
That
samskara.
as baggage. They have used the Babaji has used a different word. Belongings. Remember, Babaji was of a different era, and we are of a different era. Our word will be different than what he has used in the book, right? So our belongings are a pile of samskaras with the resultant effect in the form of complexities and diverse coverings. Then he talks about various faculties of the mind and the body. There are not many questions from this particular thing, though. So I'm just looking at it. What would come as a possible question? The last line in the 35 page number, fresh desires every moment and our effort to satisfy them lead to continuous additions. Their impressions remain on our causal body so long as they are not wiped off through the process of bhog. So this is one question. Generally they ask you, where does the impression get deposited? And that is in the causal body. And whatever impressions are there in the causal body, it needs to be brought to the surface for bhog. Now, many people got this question wrong because many people wrote the answer subtle body. Surya Narayan brother, while talking about causal body and subtle body, now he is heating the physical body with a cup of coffee.
Very sorry, brother.
No, it's all right. Don't worry. No, I could see you're holding the cup. That's why I just said, not to worry. So I'm just pulling your leg. Don't worry. We are actually doing the meeting at the time that we have the evening coffee or tea. So it's all right.
Sir,
Just
one more question also, chances are there. Every samskara becomes a cause of rebirth.
it can become a cause of rebirth. Yes. Even one single desire is enough for rebirth. And you
Brother,
know why,
just repeat the question.
1 minute. You know why Lalaji was born? I want you to read the 44 whispers and find out why was Lalaji reborn. Lalaji had practiced lot of spirituality in his past life. In spite of that, he was reborn. So now this is a question. You can do this homework after the exam is over. Don't do it now. And if Vijay Kumar brother also wants to do the homework, he is welcome to do this. Why was Lalaji reborn?
To serve humankind.
What wanted?
To serve humankind.
No. Just go look into that.
Okay.
Okay.
It is only assumption.
Anyway, not to worry about it, just a side thing. See, some of the questions that we ask is only to help you deeper your understanding of spirituality. That's all. So don't worry about it.
Nature wanted him to.
Lata continue. Go
Nature wanted him to come down and do all this work.
No, let us not get deviated for this Well, can you
Okay.
just ask the question? You were asking something else before that.
Okay.
You were asking something else, no?
Yeah, that question. Um, you asked a question, or you were telling about it deposit
We can't hear you, sister.
in the causal body. The question I want.
The question, where are the impressions deposited?
Hmm?
That's the question.
Oh,
The
I'm not
samskaras are
in.
deposited. The samskaras are deposited in dash and dash, subtle body or causal body.
Yeah. That's what.
That's the question you will get. Okay, and then coming up to that, after that, the completion of bhog of all the samskaras ordinarily is not possible during the whole time. And what we see is, unfortunately, instead of finishing them, we add more than what we have exhausted. That's what we do every day. Okay. Another serious obstruction to our path is our suffering and miseries, and our way of handling the suffering and miseries. We think fulfillment of the desire is the only way of removing miseries, but that is not the solution. The mystery of the problem will be clear to us if we look into the origin of the miseries. Now, this particular paragraph is important from the understanding. From the understanding perspective, this is important. The soul possesses consciousness as a result of God's will to effect creation. So the soul came in endowed with consciousness because that was God's will. The soul likewise began to form its own tiny creation and gathered around it things of its own creation. Now a stir or motion, unrest or disturbance was the main factor in bringing about creation. Similarly, for the tiny creation of the soul too, unrest or disturbance is indispensable. So there are two things that we utilize for our own creation. One is the consciousness, other one is the will. We also possess the force of the will, which we apply to impart power to the factors necessary for setting up this creation. So we use two things, consciousness and will, to create samskaras. So this is all the creation of a human mind which results from the ignorance of the right relationship of things. In other words, we mishandle things. Our passions, emotions, impulses too contribute to a great deal to aggravating the troubles. We generally attribute its causes to the circumstance, but it's a wrong notion. Mind is at the center of the outward expression of man in the form of a human body, and everything which is exhibited through the medium of the body proceeds from the center, which is the mind. So, if the mind were to be in a harmonious state, circumstances and environments will have no impact on it, and there will be no disturbance within. Peace and tranquility will then reign supreme under all circumstances. Passion, excitements, and desire all lose their intensity, and sorrow and misery will disappear from view. Now, the next line. Our desires are the main cause of miseries. That you will get. Dash is the main cause of miseries. You will get one
Sir,
mark.
misery and pain also we can take, only miseries we have to take.
Both. So the only solution is the curtailment of for the curtailment of miseries is the curtailment of desires. So this is also what Darji has written about it in the complete work. So in the Heartfulness Way also, and in Spiritual Anatomy also, that number of desires equals more the fewer the desires, fewer the miseries. So that is all. What Asya Dukkha ke Mula Karana. This is also what Buddha preached, right? So, Suryanarayanan, go ahead.
Is the desire
I
is the
want to
root
see your video. I want to see your video. Otherwise, I'm hearing Akashvani. I don't want to
sir,
answer to Akashvani.
desire is the root cause for the pains and miseries, or thoughts are the root cause for the pains and miseries?
I already answered that. I said both. You did not hear. Desires are the root cause of all the pains and miseries.
Okay.
Okay. Desires form a network in which we get entangled. The more we try to get rid of the desires, the tighter the fibers of the net become. So, how do we handle the desires then? We have to divert our attention from the desire. Now, remember two things. What we do normally, rather than divert the attention from the desires, what majority of the people do is to suppress the desire. And when you try to suppress the desire, it explodes with more force. Are you getting the point? So there's a fundamental difference between these two. Not paying attention to the desire or suppressing the desire. When you suppress the desire, it gets more energized and it explodes. When you do not pay attention to the desire, you are allowing the energy of the mind to flow to the surface, but you are not using that attention or the energy to energize the desire. So the desires will not get the energy from the attention of the mind, so it gradually decreases or withers away. This is a very fundamentally wrong thing that majority of people do. So they try to suppress the desire, not handle the desire in the right way. Okay? If we cultivate a habit of being unmindful of them, of the desires, they will soon begin to disappear from our view, and consequently, our miseries will be minimized. Reality alone will remain constantly before our eyes, and everything will lose its charm and significance. Total absence of sufferings or miseries is, however, impossible and unnatural. In fact, the miseries and sufferings are meant for our betterment. Miseries are really our best guide, which make our path smooth. To a man in the ordinary sphere of life, miseries are very helpful for his making. Now, we don't need to go on praying for miseries, like many sages did in the past. But if the miseries do come our way, I think we need to be tolerating it and forbearing it without reacting too much. That's all we have to do. The sages went to the other extreme. They started praying for miseries to come to them. In Asaj Mark, we don't do that. We don't pray for miseries. But if it comes our way, we accept it. And we try to handle it calmly without being reactionary. Okay? Referring to domestic troubles and miseries of worldly life, now this paragraph from our home is the training ground till the end of the paragraph. Now that is a letter written by Lalaji to Babuji, and quite a few questions can come out about that particular thing. So, what has Lalaji suggested as a way of handling our household troubles? So, you need to come back to this particular paragraph. What has Lalaji said is the greatest penance? That's another question from the same paragraph. And what has Lalaji said about the surest means of success? That's another question from the same paragraph. What are the valuable assets of our progress according to Lalaji? That's another question from the same paragraph. So there are quite a few questions. This particular letter is very famous, and Daji also has talked about it quite a few times. And so please be thorough with this particular paragraph. Our home is the training ground of patience and endurance. To endure calmly the adversities of household life is for us the greatest penance, which is the noblest of all the forms of penances. What we have therefore to do under the circumstance is not to give way to the feeling of anger or grief, but to assume an unquestioning attitude, thinking that we ourselves are in the wrong, for which we have to forbear with a cool mind. A solitary life in a forest or aloofness from worldly concerns may be to some extent, the means of cultivating patience and forbearance. But to us, the taunts and the rebukes of our friends and relations is the greatest penance and the surest means of success. Now, they have used the word greatest penance twice. In the earlier part of the paragraph also, they have used the word greatest penance. In the later also, they have used the word greatest penance. So if you are in confusion, write both. You will not lose marks. Okay? In fact, to put up coolly with miseries and troubles contributes much to our betterment. Hence, they are valuable assets in our progress. So, what are the valuable assets? Miseries and troubles, if handled properly. They are not valuable assets if mishandled. Miseries and troubles, if handled properly, are valuable assets in our progress. It's only by their wrong use that we spoil their effect and thus get deprived of their best advantages. No problem, sister Ranjita, you can leave now. Okay. Now comes the next part of it about renunciation. Renunciation or non-attachment is an essential stage of realization. It's an essential stage of realization. Renunciation itself is not realization. Okay. In sadhana chatustaya, also there is one aspect of it. Viveka and Vairagya. Vairagya is renunciation. Okay. Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti and Mumukshatva. These are the four things. Sadhana Chatustaya. And second aspect in the Sadhana Chatustaya is Vairagya. And many people think mastering Vairagya itself is spirituality. No. Vairagya is a passing stage that you actually pass through, get established, and then proceed further. It is not the goal. Like we spoke about yesterday, Bhakti is not the goal. Vairagya is also not the goal. Okay? It's a stage on our passage to realization. We can never be free from entanglements of Maya until we cultivate non-attachment. So then he says we should not connect, sever our connection with the family, home, worldly concerns, all those things. Babaji explains what is not Vairagya. Then he explains what is Vairagya. So as a householder, we have to support our family, provide for their education, everything. So we have to take the responsibility. The real evil is only our undue attachment with the things we are associated with. So it's not about the possession of the things, it's the attachment to the things which we possess, which is the problem. So in the next paragraph, and that is the main cause for our suffering. We get attached to things, and that causes sufferings. If there is no attachment, there is no suffering. So you want RCB to win the match, and RCB is not doing well. You suffer. And I think you are well versed with that suffering now for many years. Okay? ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಕಪ್ ನಮ್ದೇ ಆಯ್ತು, ಚಿಪ್ ನಮ್ದೇ ಆಯ್ತು, ಕಡೆಗೆ ಚೊಂಬು ನಮ್ದೇನೋ ಆಯ್ತು. ಈ ಯಾವುದು ನಮ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ನಡದೊಳಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಕಪ್ಪು, ಚಿಪ್ಪು ಮತ್ತೆ ಚೊಂಬು ಈ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಅರ್ಥವಾಗ್ತೀನಿ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇವಾಗ RCBನವರು ಯಾವುದು ನಮ್ದೇ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ವೈರಾಗಿಗಳಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. How is RCB fans coping with all this? They have become vairagis. We are not attached to the cup. This is what they are saying. Okay. So Babaji now defines renunciation. In the second paragraph, renunciation truly means non-attachment with worldly objects and not the non-possession of things. So that's a definition that you probably will be expected. It will come as a question, what is renunciation, or it might come as a fill in the blank, match the following, whatever. And then in the next paragraph, he says, renunciation is in fact a condition of an inner state of mind, which brings to our view the transitory and the changing character of things and creates a feeling of non-attachment with such objects. So that's also a renunciation. So just keep that in mind. So you are likely to get one of these two things about renunciation. So who is a Vairagi? Vairagi is one whose eyes are fixed every moment on reality, which is unchanging and eternal. And he is free from the feelings of attraction and repulsion. This is Vairagya in true sense of the term. When we have achieved this state, we are free from desires. We feel contented with what is available to us. Now, the importance of freeing ourselves from the desire by cultivating the Vairagya or renunciation is that the end of desires means stopping of the formation of samskaras. So what is the gateway of samskara formation? This is another question for you. Gateway of samskara formation. Arre, everyone is quiet.
Desires.
Gateway. Desires is the cause. What is the gateway? Heartfulness venal ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ದಾಜಿ. Which point or the subpoint is the gateway of samskara formation? Arre, none of
Point.
you know it.
The
Which
3 point, brother.
Point C.
Likes and
Point
dislikes.
Point
C
C.
is-
Likes and dislikes.
It's not point C, it is C subpoint.
Subpoint.
The first point is the major point. In that you have 4
Subpoint.
subpoints, which is A, B, C, D. Subpoints, they are not points. Subpoints. And last time in one of the exams, people lost mark because rather than write the subpoint, they had written the point. They lost marks for that also. Exactly very similar question. What is the gateway of samskara formation? They wrote point 1. Rather than write C subpoint. So they lost the mark. They probably might know the answer. But in the exam, since they did not write, they did not get the marks for that. Okay? So the importance of stopping the desires by vairagya. Now, another lesson that you have there is the decrease in the desires does not get a foundation, strong foundation, until unless we develop renunciation or vairagya in the second point. So without the stabilization of vairagya in the second point, the decrease in the desires because of the work in the first point is only temporary. The decrease in the desires will become stronger and more firmer in our system only when we achieve a certain amount of vairagya or renunciation in the second point. That's why there is a special technique which is used to create vairagya in the abhyasis. That you will get to know in due course. And vairagya is very, very essential to stabilize what work is achieved in the first point. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So many people, they come to meditation, some work occurs in meditation in the first point, the desires decrease and they are reasonably all right. But still, since they have not actually moved and stabilized to some extent in the second point, there is a very high likelihood that they will drop off and the desires again will multiply. Because the firm footing of the vairagya is not there. Okay? So one of the things that we need to do, as and when we regularly give sittings to the abhyasis, is to develop that vairagya, working separately on that. Because that will make them more firmer in their spiritual journey. Okay? It will keep them more aligned to the spiritual journey. Anyway, what remains now is only to undergo the bhoga of the past samskaras. Nature also helps us in this work by creating the field of bhoga. So that is the only purpose of nature. Why is nature created? If somebody were to ask, this is the fundamental answer to that. Nature is created to bring about a field for the bhoga to manifest. So nature works by creating field for bhoga in order to remove the impressions of our thoughts and actions from the causal body. Now please underline that sentence. What creates the field of bhoga? It is nature. We don't create it. Nature creates the field of bhoga to remove the samskaras from the causal body. When these coverings melt away, we begin to assume final forms of existence, which is our original state. So the next paragraph, I don't think there is any. If there is anything you can ask, people can read through it, but I don't think there is anything as far as examination oriented is concerned. So what happens is when we actually lead a normal life, what we see is that the mind's activity goes on increasing. When we lead a spiritual life, the mind's activity goes on decreasing. So one of the signs of spiritual progress is the activities of the mind comes down. Just now we were discussing with one other abhyasi about the questioning approach or questioning attitude. Now, when we come into spirituality, we question everything. That's how we come into spirituality many times. We are very rebellious in nature. Now, when we question wrongly, even if we get the right answers to the wrong question, that actually becomes a burden on our mind. Both the question and the answer becomes a burden on our mind. Now, as and when the work occurs in the Pinda Pradesh, unnecessary questioning will come down. The questioning will now take a turn in the spiritual direction. So you start questioning about things which are necessary for your spiritual journey. And you know the answer that you get will make you refined or finer or subtler. And that actually makes you lighter. So the questioning will be there, but it's in the direction of spirituality and in the direction of making you subtler. So it no longer adds any burden to your system. This is what happens. This is how the questioning attitude changes as we progress in spirituality. Till over a period of time, we start getting more and more experiences, and the experience itself becomes of what you say, an evidence for us. Then the questioning attitude further comes down, even in the spiritual realm, because the experience is now teaching you. Okay, so remember one thing: there are many abhyasis that you will come across. When they come to you for initial sittings, they will be questioning everything, lot of questions. And what we have seen is that when people come with lot of questions about materiality, within few months of sittings, regular sittings, the questioning about the materiality substantially comes down. They feel more and more settled. However, that does not preclude them from asking questions about spirituality or about the spiritual practices or the journey itself. So that freedom is still there for them. Okay. Almost everybody today feels his life is a hard struggle for existence. The result is that there is a constant unrest and disturbance of the mind. And we also breathe in the same thing from the atmosphere and consequently led away by circumstances and surroundings. So our mind is like a weathercock, it keeps changing in all directions. The real hero in the struggle is one who braves them courageously and keeps himself free from their effects. And as they are free from the effects of the environment and the circumstances. People say that every evil has an origin in the mind, and Babaji says every virtue also has an origin in the mind. So both the evil and the virtue has an origin in the mind only. So what is the problem then? The problem is it is really only due to the defective molding of the mind, which is what is actually required, rather than crushing or killing the mind. So what is required is proper training to mold the mind. We don't destroy the mind, we don't crush the mind, we don't kill the mind. We allow the mind to work. We properly mold it in the right direction. That's all. The mind is like a pendulum of a clock. If it is disturbed, the clock is out of order. Similarly, if for this human clock, it is necessary that the movement of the mind is well regulated and adjusted. The methods to mold the mind and regulate its activities are very simple. So how do you mold the mind then? Babaji is now saying you have to mold the mind. Now this is exactly what we do when patients come to us. When patients come to us, if I treat only the mental illness with medications and send them, and do not make an effort to mold their mind in the right direction, they will keep coming back again and again. So when they come to us, not only we prescribe medication, we also ask them to go and start meditation. When they start meditation, what are you ensuring? You are ensuring proper molding of the mind. Now, what does that do? The proper molding of the mind decreases the symptoms faster. It also decreases the chance of a relapse in future. So when we properly mold the mind by sittings, the need for the medication also comes down. That is what happens. Okay? Really, we have spoiled the mind ourselves by allowing it to wander about aimlessly during leisure hours. Please underline this line. This is the biggest mistake that everybody does. When the mind is engaged in some activity, that is not the issue. What we do really, the biggest mistake is we allow the mind to wander everywhere during our leisure hours. This is the biggest reason for our samskara formation. Not the work itself that we do. The proper method to control the activities of mind is to fix it on one sacred thought, just as we do in meditation, and dispel from it everything unwanted or superfluous. So, this one question purpose. What is the proper method of molding the mind? Is to fix it on one sacred thought. That's the answer. In course of time, after constant practice, the mind gets disciplined and regulated, and much of the individuality is eliminated. Now, how is it that Babuji suggests us to handle unwanted ideas or thoughts? So the next line, that's also an examination question. The best course to free yourself from unwanted ideas is to treat them as uninvited guests and remain unmindful of them. That's another question that you will get. In fact, that's a very broad question. How do you handle thoughts during meditation? And Daji has given quite a few techniques in heartfulness way. So you are expected to write all 4 or 5 techniques. Okay. And one of the things that Babuji suggests is to not pay attention or be unmindful of them and treat them as uninvited guests. They will then wither away like unwatered water plants, and ultimately the same sacred thought will remain predominant. The only way to accomplish it is therefore meditation under the guidance of a capable master. By constant practice in meditation, the mind will become calm and peaceful, and unwanted ideas will cease to trouble you. That's why we say correct thinking, right understanding, and honest approach to life. Now, before we come to correct thinking, there are 3 stages. That is just given one suggestion directly, correct thinking. But we don't come to the correct thinking directly. First, we have unregulated thinking. Then you have regulated thinking. Then you have selective thinking. Lastly, you develop correct thinking. So if you look at it from a different perspective, you have 4 stages before you reach the 4th stage of correct thinking. Okay? Unregulated thinking is overthinking. Then normal thinking. Then selective thinking, and then correct thinking. Okay? Anyway, I must clear to them that it's not. Next paragraph, the difference between the suppression of the mind versus molding or regulating the mind. I often hear beginners complaining about the abandoning of the mind during meditation. From the very first, they expect that during their practice of the meditation, the mind should remain standstill. But when they find different ideas and thoughts haunting their mind, they feel greatly perturbed. I must clear to them that it is not the suspended condition of the mind we are striving for in our practice of meditation. Please underline this. We are not striving for a suspension of the activity of the mind, but only the molding of its multifarious activity. We do not want to stop the normal activity or normal working of the mind, but only bring it to a regulated and disciplined state. So those two lines, please underline. That's also possible examination question. If the activities of the mind are stopped from the very beginning, we probably do not stand in need of practicing meditation at all. Why do we need to practice meditation? If we can stop the thoughts, there is no need to practice meditation. Meditation is only the process to achieve the end. Concentration is the natural result of its course. So meditation is the process and concentration is the outcome of that process. In other words, we do not require concentration during meditation. Please remember this. Concentration is different, meditation is different. This is exactly what Daji also has written in Heartfulness way. Concentration is different and meditation is different. Concentration is effortful focus. Meditation is effortless focus. Concentration is on a definitive object. Meditation is on an infinite object. Concentration is on an object outside. Meditation is on an object, infinite object inside. These are the 3 differences. Okay. Now, the mental struggle to keep off the unwanted ideas often proves successful because it causes a strong reaction which is often impossible for a man to ordinary capacity to overcome, and is likely to result in serious mental disturbance or even insanity. It may be possible for those leading a life of celibacy who have gained sufficient ojas to cope successfully. So, if people who practice celibacy, who do not allow their semen to be ejected out, that semen, this is the Ayurvedic concept, that semen gets converted into ojas in due course of time. And people who have strong ojas, they have the capability to suppress the thoughts and maintain and what to say, still uh, tolerate its effect. People without sufficient ojas, they cannot tolerate the effects of suppression of the thoughts. It rebounds with increased energy. So if instead of struggling to keep them off, we only remain unmindful of them. We don't actually suppress the thoughts. We remain unmindful of them. They will then be only like dogs barking after a caravan, which go forward without paying any heed to them. When we are attentive to ideas to check them, concentration will naturally be there, which breeds power and thus they become stronger. This is exactly what we do in the cleaning also. In the cleaning, we do not pay attention to what we want to clean. We will say, let everything get cleaned. If you pay attention to something that you wanted to specifically get cleaned, it will not get cleaned. Everything else will get cleaned. This will not get cleaned. So it defeats our purpose. Okay. Other thing that people talk about is that they don't have time for the practice. So what Babuji talks about is that we need to do some time management or time adjustment. Then there are others who are more honest to accept that it's not the question with time, it's their own negligence, habitual negligence and sluggishness, basically laziness, that they are not able to do it. Then Babuji writes, if they are going to earn money, even if they are unwell, they are happy to do the job. But if they have to do practice of spirituality and meditation, then they will not do anything because they are not able to relate to the earnings of meditation. Their longing for material gain makes them unmindful of their inconvenience or illness. Similarly, if we develop longing or lagan for the realization of the goal, then our negligent or sluggish habits will not stand in the way of our efforts of progress. So what is necessary to overcome sluggishness or negligence? Our longing for the goal. So that is also another 1 mark question. What is necessary to overcome the laziness or the sluggishness or the negligent attitude, habits? It is our longing for the goal. Intense longing for the goal made them blind to. Now he is talking about the past rishis and sages who underwent lot of troubles to reach the goal. So now he is talking about them and writing, intense longing for the goal made these saints blind to everything else and they remained firm on the path, not minding the difficulties or reverses they come across their way. Such an intense longing for the object and an iron will to achieve the goal is absolutely necessary for ensuring complete success. So that's another question. What ensures complete success? Intense longing plus iron will. I may assume that you can only win laurels in the spiritual field only if you turn your attention towards God and proceed with will, faith, and confidence. Generally, the problem is that people go hesitantly towards God, thinking themselves to be incapable and weak to achieve the goal. A powerful will made at the start, very first step, maintained all through, shall never fail to achieve the complete success. Again, he's talking about iron will, and again he is now quoting in a different words, powerful will. Half the distance is covered if a man enters the field with a firm mind. Difficulties and dejections will melt away at a mere glance and the path of success will be made smooth. An indecisive attitude leads to half-hearted efforts and the results will be partial success or failure. Our firm will enables us automatically to draw in power from unknown sources for the accomplishment of the task. Now he is giving an explanation. What does the firm will do? The firm will draws in power from unknown sources for the accomplishment of the task. So that's the necessity or the need for the firm will. So again, I repeat two things: intense longing and firm will, or iron will, or a powerful will. Use the word 3 words: iron will, powerful will, and firm will. All the 3 are the same. So that intense longing with the powerful will is what is necessary for our success. Again, he repeats about the firm will. He is emphasizing about the firm will many times now. A firm will supplemented by an ever-increasing impatience or yearning to achieve the object will enhance the force of our efforts. Now, impatience or constant restlessness to reach the goal in the shortest possible time is a very important factor that contributes to our speedy success. This is another thing that you will get. What ensures our speedy success in spirituality? Impatience or constant restlessness is a very, very important thing. What does intense longing do? Intense longing creates intense restlessness. Now, we spoken about two things necessary for success: intense longing and firm will. What does firm will do? It draws energy and power from other sources to help us reach the goal. What does intense craving do or intense longing do? Intense longing actually creates impatience or constant restlessness, and that helps us go towards the goal faster. Thus, for gaining, now this is a contradictory or a paradoxical statement, please underline this. Thus, for gaining eternal peace, we cultivate within us restlessness and impatience at the preliminary stage. Now, this many people will get, and you will be, it's like a googling. Many people get bowled over by this. So that's why I'm actually asking you to pay attention and underline that particular line. It's a googling, and definitely they'll ask you. Now they are making the question paper more and more of less and less straightforwardness. The question paper is more and more topsy-turvy. Now, Babuji also has bold googly. Please remember this sentence. Okay. So, thus for gaining eternal peace, we cultivate within us restlessness and impatience at the preliminary stages. The restlessness thus created, now he is talking about people come to meditation for peace. Now I am telling them that you have to create restlessness. What is this contradiction? Now he is trying to differentiate between the two types of restlessness: material restlessness versus spiritual restlessness. The restlessness thus created is temporary and different in character from the ordinary restlessness condition of the mind. The spiritual restlessness is of a finer and more pleasant. It creates an inlet in the heart for divine current to flow in and smoothens our passage to the kingdom of God. So these are the three benefits of the spiritual restlessness. One, it is finer and more pleasant. Two, it creates an inlet in our heart for divine current to flow and smoothen our passage to the kingdom of God. Similarly, desperate efforts caused by the extreme impatience to reach the goal at once will quicken our steps on the path of realization and ensure easy success in the least possible time. This is the easiest and the most efficient means of speedy success. So, extreme impatience is a sure recipe for success. My associates, I think, shall we stop here? We can continue from here from tomorrow, because I think there is now the meeting. I want you people to read the chapter Guru tomorrow before you come, the entire chapter Guru. So along with this, we'll cover the chapter Guru tomorrow, because we have another meeting coming in the next 5 minutes. So my suggestion is, let us stop here at 48. We'll continue in the second paragraph of 48 tomorrow. And as far as questions are concerned for this and yesterday, please catch hold of our Hidambi brother.
I'm posting some of the questions in the WhatsApp group. I'll post it with you, then you can post on the WhatsApp.
I'll just post it in the SNP December group. Or I'll add you to the SNP December group. You can post it there directly. No problem.
Yeah, that is better.
I'll just add you there. Okay? No problem. So thank you very much to all of you. Please come ready having read. That will make it easier to kind of clarify some of the points, and you will have a more deeper understanding. Okay? So entire chapter of Guru for tomorrow. And these 3-4 pages of this chapter. Ways and means. Okay? So
Thank
good
you, brother.
evening.
Tomorrow time?
Tomorrow as usual, 7 o'clock.
7.
Okay. 7 to 8, I think there is one meeting. 8 to 9, there is a central meeting. And I think 9:15 to 10:30, there is another meeting. Okay. Tomorrow we will have as usual 8 to 9. Sorry, 7 to 8. 7 to 8 is fixed, except for Wednesday where we will change. Today was a bit unusual. So 7 to 8 is the regular time. Okay? Okay then. Good evening and namaste to all.
Thank you.